The social healing lens is really a paradigm. It's a vision that arises basically from the inherent truth of interconnectivity, which is to say it's a lens of compassion. And I see it as a evolutionary step for us. The older paradigm, the paradigm of separation, which has brought with it a retributive lens, let us say, within the field that I work in, sees and depends upon, on some level, people being able to separate themselves from the other and not have a sense of relatedness to the experience of the other. So compassion, because it really is about suffering with, extends our vision and our sense of ourself beyond the rigid labels of the one being judged and the judger, beyond the victim and the perpetrator and the bystander, to a sense of larger self, so that it's very difficult to sit in judgment of each other if we are in a compassionate relationship with each other. And in the field of peace building, let's say, today, we look at restorative justice, we look at transitional justice and reconciliation, all being grounded in an understanding and experience of the other as someone whose experience I can relate to because I've been there to some extent. So it's evolutionary in that sense, and it really relies upon our movement towards the greater self, if you will. It's a principle which is participatory. I think one of the great symbols that actually allows us to understand social healing better is the circle. That's why peacemaking circles are making sort of such an impact on the process of peace building these days, because we understand that it takes a community, essentially, to heal. The other thing about social healing that I would like to bring forward is I consider it sort of a reparenting of our consciousness. And what I mean by that is we've pretty much been, certainly in the modern era, so to speak, we're very aware of our patriarchal consciousness. And that's the consciousness that really has upheld or given us the foundation for our laws, our sense of morality in terms of the way Western jurisprudence arises. But we've lost the maternal, we've lost the mother. And so social healing is also about a refeminization of the world. It's the Dalai Lama refers to compassion as a practice very much dependent upon imagery of the mother, meditating on the mother, being reminded of the fact that the time when we have felt unconditionally loving in our life, not universally true, of course, for all of us, but generally has to do with the bond of the mother. So social healing is this universalizing lens which moves beyond blame and shame. Now, what it is not is morally weak. And some people who think about social healing may say, oh, this is really nice, this healing stuff. It's a lens that looks at healing and wounding and not right and wrong. It doesn't mean that there's not an understanding and a firm sense of good and bad behavior and of the ethical vision by which we have to live in this world. But it does say that to really repair the world deeply, we need to be able to sit with compassion for each other and get that sense that we are, none of us, fixed in our location of victim, perpetrator, bystander. The research that I did on compassion and social healing revealed one very important thing to me, which is that compassion arises in the process of social healing because we are able to let go of a sense of rigid self. And often that's a righteous self that sits in judgment of the other. But when at the point that we're able to say, I recognize I too have been a victim, or I too have been a perpetrator, or I too have stood by while others have been harmed, that allows us to recognize that we're all in this together and that this is a communal enterprise. And that's really what social healing is about.